Hi students, I welcome all of you to Tabarak Private School Educational Platform. In today's lesson, let's discuss about a novel, Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, written by Robert Louis Stevenson. Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was written by Robert Louis Stevenson. Robert Louis Stevenson was a Scottish novelist. He was born in 1850. Stevenson is best known for his adventure and travel books, as well as for the psychological thriller Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Let's start the novel Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The summary of this novel is given for you here. My students, go through it. Let's check the answers of the given questions from the background information text, page number 107. First question is, why does Dr. Jekyll create the potion? Dr. Jekyll creates the potion to separate the good and evil side of his personality. Second question, how does Dr. Jekyll feel about his transformation at the beginning? He enjoys it at the beginning of transformation. Question number 3. What was the apparent cause of Dr. Jekyll's death? The answer is suicide. Question number 4. Who narrates the final chapter of the novel? Dr. Jekyll, in the form of a letter, narrates the final chapter of the novel. The last question is, who did not particularly care for Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde at first? Literary critics didn't care for Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde at first. Figurative language, imagery. When you read the passage from your literature book, page number 107, you can see many examples of imagery. Imagery is used for the description that appeals to our five senses. Imagery creates visual representation of ideas in our mind. Here you can see different types of imagery. Auditory imagery describes what we hear. For example, music, noise, silence. Visual imagery describes what we see. Colors, patterns, shapes, size. Olfactory describes what we smell. Nice fragrance, bad odors, etc. Gustatory imagery describes what we taste. Sour, sweet, acidic, bitter, and salty. Tactile imagery describes what we touch or feel. Texture, movement, temperature. Look at the examples of imagery. Visual imagery. The night was black as ever, but bright star lit up in the sky. Auditory imagery. Silence was broken by the peal of piano as Sharon began his practice. Olfactory imagery. She smelled the scent of sweet hibiscus. Gustatory imagery. The candy melted in her mouth. Tactile imagery. After the long run, he collapsed in the grass with tired and burning muscles. Now you have a task. Read the summary again and write a 250 to 300 word essay on the conflict of good and evil in the novel Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and trace how the author presents this conflict. Thank you for listening. See you again with another topic.